Welcome, Wargamers, to the hangry and dangerous mortal realms as we adjust our bibs just a bit and get a bite out of the latest Mawtribes battle tome, with a story that I found particularly interesting, and it is known as The Fall of the Dawnhold. The Elven Refuge of the Dawnhold stands among the Ember Mountains of Akshi, a shining beacon of hope amidst the darkness of the Age of Chaos. The fortress sanctuary rebuffs all attempts by the armies of Chaos Lord Slathanex to breach its walls. Sword masters guard the ramparts, and fire-hurling lore masters obliterate any machine sent forth. Frustrated, Slathanex digs in for a lengthy and costly siege. But fortune is on his side. Tyrant Klug, the flatulent of the meat-fist Mawtribe, has long sought to feast upon tasty elven flesh. He offers to bring his great iron blaster cannons to bear upon the stronghold, if the Chaos Lord agrees that everything living inside the Dawnhold belongs to the ogres, and is theirs alone to devour. After 10 days of ceaseless bombardment, Klug's rusted, oversized cannons shatter the outer wall of the Dawnhold, and the allied forces of ogres and chaos warriors rush in to butcher the occupants. However, during the carnage that follows, Slathanex's mana core feasts upon a single elf. Furious, Klug the Flatulent accuses the Chaos Lord of breaking the terms of their treaty. His ogre gluttons immediately turn upon their allies, hacking them to death with enormous cleavers. Alright friends, so let's break this story down just a bit. We know actually where it takes place in Akshi, the realm of fire, but I couldn't actually find the Ember Mountains from the core book. Maybe it's a mountain range that was lost or destroyed during something, but I couldn't find the exact location, assuming it's, in the Great Parch. But then again, the map for Akshi is a very busy one, so I might have just missed it. Now, it is important to note that this does happen during the Age of Chaos, where civilizations and forts and bastions everywhere were under siege from all different kinds of forces, mainly of course chaos. And I missed the time period when I first read this and was like, where did this city come from? But yeah, this was just one more example of how the Age of Chaos ruined everything that was there. All we know about the defenders in this story is that they're a bunch of elves in the realm of fire, just trying to be chill and wait out the Age of Chaos, and in walks trouble, Chaos Lord Slathanex. Now, we don't have any real idea what kind of chaos army this is, and therefore what kind of troops it's made of, but I do find a few things interesting. They wanted this fortification destroyed, but they didn't really care about the people inside of it, as when they made the deal with the Mawtribes we'll talk about later. But they were not, in my opinion, a siege warfare warband or army, and I have trouble reconciling that. Like, we're gonna go conquer every castle in the land. How? I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there. It says he brought some war machines and they were struck down, but I feel like if you were gearing up to go siege hunting, maybe you would have a little bit of a better plan or idea how to use those, war machines. But I just like the idea, very inspiring. He leads a chaos warband to conquest, I plan a road trip. Yeah, where are we staying? I don't know. We'll figure it out when I'm tired. It's not the most, inspiring presence for a leader. But due to a lack of foresight, or maybe just not being good at siege warfare, he put his war machines up front apparently, they settle in for a long siege. Which I cannot imagine a worse idea for a Chaos army. As we discussed in the lore videos for Slaves to Darkness, a Chaos Lord needs to be constantly asserting their authority, constantly directing the ambition and energy of everyone below him. And you know what's not fun? Sitting and waiting for elves to starve. So this just up front sounds like a terrible recipe for disaster. So what's a way to bring a wacky buffer in to shake up this paradigm? A portion of the Meat-Fist Mawtribe appears, led by an ogre with the single greatest name in Warhammer history, Klug the Flatulent. Interesting to me that these are Meat-Fist and not Underguts, who have a much deeper affinity for explosives and cannons and stuff, but of course, every sub-faction will have every unit at their disposal. It just kind of struck me as a story that would fit them a little bit more, but regardless, these boys came looking for a snack, and they found it. Now, I have a question here towards the end of our opening segment here, and that's just to ask, if this deal didn't fall apart in bloodshed, a mana core scooped up one dead elf, how was this going to end, right? Was the Chaos Lord going to see the walls breached, the ogres take and eat everything and everyone inside, and then just let them walk away? I think that would be such an act of cowardice that he would get murdered by all of his lieutenants. Like, the goal really just to destroy the fort by any means, and there's no plundering, we don't need slaves, you know what I mean? Like, it's just to destroy fortifications, but if that's true, why aren't they better with siege equipment? It just, in my mind, they were always going to turn on the ogres. Right? These guys in the Chaos Army had been sitting and chilling for so long, they want action. But we will use the guns that the ogres brought first. So in my mind, my little headcanon I have going on, the Chaos Armies were always going to fight with the ogres. However, I don't think that the Slathanex, the Chaos Lord, anticipated his Manticore eating somebody and turning the ogres onto them so soon. I imagine they would attack as the ogres were eating and probably not paying attention, but as is, they kicked the hornet's nest mid-battle, which ultimately sealed their fate. And again, we don't know exactly what kind of Chaos Army this was, how confident they might feel, if they had time to, plan, a surprise attack or something like that on the ogres, kind of surrounding them. I like to think it's a Slaves to Darkness warband where it has all different kinds of things mixed in, but I'm not quite sure. Again, it could have been anything, because he definitely has elements within his name that could go be attributed to Slaanesh or something like that, just with the Slathanex, and then possibly even Nurgle. There's a lot of ways it can go, but I just think that the unit formation, like, it could have been playing in his head, like, okay, we'll break open the fort, let all the ogres rush in, and now we have all the ogres pinned in one place, and we'll be able to fight them and exterminate them now that the doors are opened. I'm sure that was the idea. How that panned out doesn't seem that great, but I think it's a wonderful story to illustrate the fact that, like, Chaos Armies need to keep moving. They need a direction, and I don't see any other way that this ends other than with Slathanex totally dead, either by ogres, elves, or his own lieutenants who had to sit there for weeks watching this siege happen. It's an awesome story that brings together a few different factions that have nothing in common with one another, and in a minute I'm going to break down a few key reasons as to why this story is so cool and matters so much, right after a quick word from today's sponsor. Alright friends, game time. Can you tell me what all 4 of these things have in common? That's right, they are all traps, but not the kind of traps that you would likely find within your role-playing game dungeons. But if you would like to increase the danger level of your dungeons, castles, and ruins with an extra hint of spice, check out the Treacherous Traps supplement by Nord Games, a massive compendium that works for any role-playing game system and injects danger into any corridor or chest. Now, this is a massive resource for any aspiring DMs who want to be able to create compelling and interesting games, puzzles, and pitfalls for your players in a wide variety of settings. It's full of fun artwork and helpful tips, and they even have these cool little random card generator things so you can generate a trap on the fly if you're not quite sure how you want to torture your friends and family that particular day. No judgment. So add some fun and excitement to your next campaign by setting some treacherous traps of your own through the link in the description down below. Now, back to the show. Okay friends, so why is this story so cool? For me personally, I love when Grand Alliances work together. It makes the realms feel like an ecosystem, right? Not everyone is immediately hostile. We have factions that have to work together. They all have different temperaments. Sometimes they don't want to attack one another, and so we'll let these, grots or whatever just kind of have the forest, just as long as they don't come out too far from it, that's fine. I like that kind of thing because it just paints a picture of a world that's brimming with life, but they all have to work together. And also, can you imagine being one of the elves on that wall, right? You see a Chaos Army, and no matter what deity they serve, right, they're going to have things like mutations, maybe a war shrine, they could have knights, all the works. Again, we kind of think this is meant to be a siege force of some kind, and yeah, you're picking out their siege weapons, and you're doing great, but ultimately, they're settling in for a long-form siege. And then you see Mawtribes coming around the corner, and your heart becomes a knot, because the best-case scenario is that they come and kill all the Chaos dudes, and now we have to fight ogres. Hopefully, a bunch of the ogres get killed before they come and fight the gates. But that horror and, that sinking feeling in your gut when you see, an ogre and a chaos lord fist bump each other and laugh. I could just see myself instantly becoming Bill Paxton's character from Alien and just being like, game over, man. Game over. Get me out of here, man. And regardless of the outcome of that, discussion, I want to talk more about places like this. Like, I want to know about them, like bastions of order that aren't big mega cities, right? It's called a fortress sanctuary full of elves in Akshi, and I'm so interested in that place. Was it a place of worship? If so, to who? Is it a sanctuary in the sense of it's a safe place for travelers and merchants, rather than being like a religious sanctuary type thing? I don't know, but I really want to, and I would love to see Games Workshop put out, like, I don't know, I guess when I was thinking originally of the Cities of Sigmar book, it wouldn't be framed around specific cities, but rather like types of cities. So like outpost, fortification, mega city, that kind of thing, where they have different resources and tools available based on how big or advanced they are. I would love to see that, because that would unlock a lot of room for us to create our own cities, dot them across the realms, and just really breathe a lot of life into them. And so it's stuff like this that I'm like, I want to know about this. Why was this fortress, sanctuary, or monastery, or whatever, why is this here? Why is it predominantly elves in the middle of a realm of fire? I don't know, but I really want to. It's these little locations that go a long way to adding a bit of life to the realms, right? It's not just infinite space connected by mega cities or, set pieces for big battles. Obviously, they were well defended. So how well do pockets of resistance like this hold out? Show me what, as Vindicarum or Excelsius, as those cities expand and kind of seed new locations and cities and townships across the realms, what do they look like? How do they keep themselves safe? I want to know those kinds of things. But honestly, like, wrapping it up here at the end, the truth is this story is awesome because it makes me want to know more about all of them. Like, to me, this is the highest compliment that I can give one of these short stories in a battle tome. I want to know about the defenders, all about the elves and the buildings there. I want to know about the Chaos Warband, who doesn't seem to know anything about how to siege warfare stuff and doesn't seem to want really much from inside. And the ogres, who were just hungry for a meal. Each of them is a perfect snapshot of their faction, and it makes me want to learn more about them. To me, these are the best kinds of these short stories, and why I started doing these kind of pulling out blurb stories and really expanding upon them is because it makes me want to engage with every faction that's represented here. To me, it makes it fun, and it's just little things like this that, like, hey, if you have a buddy who has, Cities of Sigmar, Slaves to Darkness, and a Mawtribe player in your group, this is a fun story to recreate with all you guys. Like, this, it could be a really fun thing. I don't know how I would necessarily do it rules-wise without getting a little too convoluted, but I think it's a ton of fun. But anyway, friends, I want to know your thoughts. Leave them in the comments down below, and I will go ahead and talk to you there. Thank you so much for watching and listening today, and I look forward to seeing you in my next Age of Sigmar lore video. Happy wargaming.